These are 20 hidden facts about Operation Petticoat, the 1959 submarine comedy that became Cary Grant's biggest commercial hit, launched one of Hollywood's greatest directing careers, and earned more money at the American box office than any comedy before it. Behind the Pink Submarine lies a record-breaking payday, real wartime history, and a cast whose later careers would shape television for decades. Before we get into it, if you enjoy deep dives into the golden era of Hollywood, subscribe to 90s Playback right now. We cover these classics every week. Fact 1. Tony Curtis helped make this movie happen because he desperately wanted to work with Cary Grant. Curtis had served in the Navy during World War II aboard the submarine tender USS Proteus, so the setting was familiar to him. Years earlier, he'd watched Grant command a submarine in Destination Tokyo and never forgot it. While making Operation Petticoat, Curtis was also filming Some Like It Hot, where he famously spent much of the movie impersonating Cary Grant. Fact 2. Cary Grant's involvement transformed the entire production. Universal originally planned a modest black-and-white comedy costing around $1 million. Once Grant signed on, the budget tripled to over $3 million. The movie switched to color, and the now famous Pink Submarine became possible. Fact 3. Grant's contract became Hollywood history. Instead of taking a salary, he negotiated 75% of the net profits or 10% of the gross, whichever paid more. The arrangement reportedly earned him over $3 million, roughly equal to the entire production budget and one of the largest actor paydays ever at that time. Fact 4. The USS Sea Tiger never existed, but 3 real Navy submarines portrayed it. USS Queenfish, USS Archerfish, and USS Balao all appeared in the production. 2 of those vessels had actually been present in Tokyo Bay when Japan formally surrendered in 1945. Fact 5. The Pink Submarine wasn't pure invention. During World War II, the USC Sea Dragon reportedly lost much of its exterior paint after an air raid, exposing reddish primer underneath and leaving the vessel with a pinkish appearance. The story became famous enough to inspire the movie's central joke. Fact 6. The toilet paper sequence came from a real Navy document. In 1942, a submarine commander wrote an official letter explaining what toilet paper was after a requisition order was rejected as cannot identify. The original letter survives today at the Submarine Force Library and Museum. Fact 7. The nurses aboard the submarine were also based on reality. Several American submarines evacuated nurses and civilians during the Pacific War. Vessels such as USS Spearfish and USS Narwhal carried women, children, and non-combatants, despite not being designed for passengers. Fact 8. Even the torpedoed bus had a real-world inspiration. In 1944, USS Bowfin fired a torpedo that missed its intended target and struck a bus on a nearby island. The incident was documented by the crew and later inspired one of the film's most absurd moments. Fact 9. Operation Petticoat launched Blake Edwards into Hollywood's top tier. Before this film, he was known primarily for television work, including Peter Gunn. After its success came Breakfast at Tiffany's, Days of Wine and Roses, and eventually the Pink Panther franchise. Fact 10. Cary Grant and Blake Edwards occasionally clashed. Edwards had planned a scene where Grant's character stole a pig, but Grant felt it didn't fit his carefully crafted screen persona. The scene was reassigned to Tony Curtis instead. Edwards later admitted he regretted losing it. Fact 11. Cary Grant was 55 during production and privately worried he was getting too old for leading man roles. Audiences certainly didn't agree. Critics praised his performance, and he received a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actor in a Comedy. Fact 12. While filming, Grant found himself at the center of a controversy unrelated to the movie. He gave a candid interview discussing his therapeutic use of LSD, then tried unsuccessfully to stop publication. The resulting headlines followed him throughout production. Fact 13. Tony Curtis spent 1959 working with Cary Grant and impersonating Cary Grant at the exact same time. When Grant saw Some Like It Hot and heard Curtis's impression, he reportedly joked that he didn't sound like that. Curtis immediately answered back in Grant's voice. Fact 14. Cary Grant wasn't the original choice. Jeff Chandler held the role first, but lost it because of scheduling conflicts. Robert Taylor was considered. Bob Hope reportedly passed, and Tina Louise turned down a nurse role before the project finally landed with Grant. Fact 15. Several supporting players later became television legends. Gavin MacLeod would star on The Mary Tyler Moore Show and The Love Boat. Marion Ross became Mrs. Cunningham on Happy Days. Dick Sargent later took over the role of Darren Stevens on Bewitched. Fact 16. The screenplay earned an Academy Award nomination but lost to Pillow Talk. What makes that unusual is that two of the same writers, Stanley Shapiro and Maurice Richland, were credited on both films. They essentially lost the Oscar to themselves. Fact 17. Operation Petticoat became the highest-grossing comedy in American history up to that point. Domestic rentals exceeded $9.3 million, making it the third biggest movie of 1959 behind only Ben-Hur and Disney's The Shaggy Dog. Fact 18. Blake Edwards secretly designed the submarine sets to create physical comedy. Passageways were slightly narrower, and stairways slightly different from actual Navy specifications. Actors constantly adjusted their movements without realizing it, giving scenes a natural sense of chaos. Fact 19. Production took place just 90 miles from one of the most important political events of the century. While filming in Key West, Fidel Castro's revolution had recently succeeded in Cuba. Cast and crew reportedly encountered military roadblocks while traveling through Florida during that tense period. Fact 20. The film eventually inspired a television series. ABC launched Operation Petticoat as a sitcom in 1977. Most notably, Tony Curtis's daughter, Jamie Lee Curtis, appeared as one of the nurses aboard the Sea Tiger. The movie her father had worked so hard to create ended up helping launch the next generation of his family's career. 20 Hidden Facts. A movie that started because Tony Curtis wanted to work with his idol. A film that gave Cary Grant the biggest payday of his career. A comedy inspired by genuine submarine history that became the highest-grossing comedy Hollywood had ever seen. What makes Operation Petticoat so fascinating isn't just the pink submarine or the box office records. It's the way it sits at the intersection of old Hollywood and modern entertainment. It brought together one of cinema's greatest stars at the height of his power, launched Blake Edwards toward an extraordinary directing career, and quietly connected multiple generations of performers who would go on to dominate American television. Few comedies leave that kind of legacy behind. More than 60 years later, Operation Petticoat remains one of the most successful military comedies ever made. Proof that audiences will always respond to great characters, sharp writing, and a story that finds humor in even the most unlikely situations. If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment below telling us which facts surprised you most, and subscribe to 90s Playback so you never miss another hidden Hollywood story. Tell us which classic film you'd like us to cover next.